boys and girls, welcome back. Today we are going to read an amazing nonfiction story, a biography about Sonia Sotomayor, a famous judge. We're going to find out how she became a judge and why. We see it says here, a judge grows in the Bronx. And we also see that this book is in English and Spanish. On the other side it says, La juez que creció en el Bronx. Ooh. You never know what can happen. Sometimes the most beautiful moonflower blossoms in an unexpected place, on a chain-link fence near broken glass, next to an abandoned building, watered by someone whose name you might not even know. And sometimes the most amazing person blossoms in just such a place as well. So it was with a little girl named Sonia. Her blossoming began with her mother's love and hard work. Let's see. Oh, how Sonia's mother loved her. She worked night and day and night as a switchboard operator, just so she could pay for Sonia's and her brother's private schools. She had never made it past the 3rd grade when she was a girl, but she sure wanted her children to. They lived in a public housing project in a part of New York called the South Bronx, a place where most people had precious little money, and Sonia's family was no different, with only their mother to support them. She's a single mom working hard for her kids. You see, Sonia's father had died when she was 9 years old, leaving just an empty chair and much sadness. But you can't give in to sadness when your children need to eat. This is why Sonia's mother worked and worked and worked and then came home and cooked pork chops. To Sonia, this was heaven. Oh, how she loved her mother. When Sonia's mother wasn't cooking or working, she was studying. She wanted to become a nurse, so she could make better wages and help her children even more. While Sonia slept, stayed up until midnight doing her homework. There was nothing she would not do to help her Sonia or her brother. Sonia loved the world her mother gave her. Her mother and her father were from Puerto Rico, and Sonia grew up surrounded by the tastes and sounds of Puerto Rican culture. A favorite meal was Spanish rice and beans, and she loved the big family parties where merengue music filled the air. Arriba! Saturday nights, Sonia's family and friends would get together while the grown-ups sat down in one room playing dominoes. Sonia and her cousins played loteria, a Latin American bingo game. Sonia's abuelita shout out the numbers while the grandkids marked their cards with chickpeas. Sonia's family surrounded her like a warm blanket. Oh, she must have loved those days, right? And she was also surrounded by books, school books, library books, a set of encyclopedias her mother had saved all her pennies and nickels and dimes to buy. And when the schoolwork was done, there were her favorite books, the Nancy Drew mystery novels. Oh, those are really good. If you love mystery and solving cases, you definitely love reading those books. The Nancy Drew mystery novels. Nancy Drew was a girl detective who was always on the go, solving crimes. She was unstoppable. That's who Sonia wanted to be. Look at that. A book inspired her to be a what? A detective. She wanted to be a detective. But then something happened that made her change her mind. When she was only 8, her doctor sat her down and told her some bad news. She had a disease called diabetes. If you have diabetes, you have to take several shots of medicine a day for the rest of your life. So maybe she wouldn't be Nancy Drew, but that didn't mean she couldn't be unstoppable. Okay, nothing can stop you from becoming what you want to be, boys and girls. Her favorite TV show was Perry Mason, about a courtroom lawyer. One episode ended with the image of a judge, the most powerful person in the courtroom. A light bulb went on above Sonia's head, and she knew she would become a judge. Becoming a judge, though, that's not easy. Sonia knew she'd have to get really good grades to become a judge. So while other kids may have been goofing off, Sonia was studying at her mother's kitchen table year after year after year. She probably noticed how her mother worked really hard and studied really hard. Remember back then when she would be asleep at midnight? It paid off. By the time she graduated high school, she had won an award for being the very best student in her whole school. What an honor. You can't imagine how proud her mother was. This was her daughter, her Sonia. Ay bendito, what an honor. Sonia's grades were so good that she was accepted at one of the very best colleges in America, Princeton University. This too was an honor, but Princeton was not the Bronx. Where was the subways? Where was the merengue music? Where? People who looked like her. For the first time in her life, Sonia felt scared and shy and very out of place, almost like she was on a different planet. During her first week, she heard a cricket in her dorm room and it scared her. What was this strange insect? As it turns out, it wasn't in her room, but on a tree outside her window. Growing up in the projects, Sonia never had a tree outside her window. And growing up in the projects, Sonia never had the sorts of luxuries her classmates took for granted. Most of the Princeton kids had grown up taking tennis lessons and vacationing in Europe. They were skiing over Christmas break. Many of their parents and grandparents had gone to Princeton too. Suddenly, Sonia was aware of being poor, of being Latina, of feeling inferior. Where was the warm, comfy blanket of her family? Oh, how she missed them. In similar shoes, some people may have gone back home. But Sonia was like a flowering vine that would not stop growing. She would not just survive this strange new world, she would thrive. She would spend her first summer breaks reading all the books she'd never had time to read before to make herself even smarter. Oh, there's a tip there. The more you read, the more you know, boys and girls. She would become the head of a club for the handful of Latino students at Princeton. She would push herself to her limits, studying day and night and day at the library, and graduate with the highest honors of any student in her class. Boys and girls, why do you think she studied in the library? Because it's a quiet place. Success comes to those who make the most of the chances they are offered in life. Sonia did become a judge, and a good judge too. She was known for working very hard and always being very prepared for every trial. She was also known for having no patience for lawyers who weren't prepared. You better not mess with Judge Sonia. Yet she was known for much more than this. Unlike many judges, she had grown up in poverty. She had grown up in New Rican, a child of Puerto Rican parents. most other judges had not. People she'd grown up with had gone to jail. People she'd grown up with were poor, and many of them weren't as lucky as she had been. They'd had trouble learning to speak Spanish, trouble finding jobs. Unlike many judges, she knew firsthand what prejudice was, what it was to be judged for your background. In a world of judges, this made Sonia very special. Wow, boys and girls, do you think that she had a hard time getting to where she is now? Yes, she had to struggle. But did she give up? No, boys and girls, she did not give up. Oh, but Sonia, the very special judge, did not stop there. No. You see, Sonia was offered the chance of a lifetime. She was invited to the White House by none other than President Barack Obama, because President Barack Obama had decided to nominate Sonia to the best job a judge could possibly have, to be a Supreme Court justice. Justice is a fancy word for a judge. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the nation. Supreme Court decisions help shape the law of the land. This was huge. Whoa, there had never been a Latin American on the Supreme Court. How strange this was. There are so many people of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Cuban descent, adding color to the great garden that is America. Why shouldn't all these people have someone who understands their lives on the Supreme Court? She was one of the most respected judges in the country. She was the perfect choice. This was an honor beyond anything Sonia, in all her beautiful flowering, had ever imagined. But at the announcement ceremony, Sonia spoke about her mother rather than herself. I have often said that I am all I am because of her, and I am only half the woman she is. Then, speaking straight to her mother in the audience, she said, "I thank you for all that you have given me and continue to give me." Her mother cried and cried. This was her daughter. Wasn't over though. There were some bumps on the path to the Supreme Court. A broken ankle, which didn't slow her down a bit. And angry people calling Sonia names like races just because she was proud to be a Latina judge and not ashamed to say it. And days of tough questions from a panel of 19 senators and a row of white faces, most of them male or men. But this didn't stop her. Nothing could stop Sonia, the dynamo from the Bronx, from making history as the nation's first Latin American Supreme Court justice. Ay bendito. You never know what can happen, especially when you water a flower. And that is the end, boys and girls.